Well, for more on the nutritional supplement market and the science behind it, I spoke to Pamela Popper, Executive Director of Wellness Forum Health. She began by explaining how this incredibly lucrative industry is able to attract so many customers.
We do spend a lot of money on these, and there are a couple of things that the industry does really well. The first thing is that they call on, supplement companies call on naturopathic, holistic, integrative, all kinds of different terms used to describe alternative practitioners and convince them to offer these products to their patients. And what they really have done is they have turned alternative practitioners into what I call holistic pharmacists. They're handing out supplements instead of drugs. And in some cases, they're less toxic than drugs, and that's a good thing perhaps. But the big problem with that is that the underlying conditions are not being addressed. And so if you have arthritis, you can take a pharmaceutical drug like a COX-2 inhibitor, lots of side effects, so that might push you to go see a naturopath who recommends glucosamine. Not as many side effects, often can be very effective, but you still have arthritis and that condition is galloping along because you're not addressing the cause. So they're very good at marketing to the types of health professionals who are inclined to recommend these products to their patients and clients. And then they do a lot of direct-to-consumer advertising, and a couple of their stances or statements that are very effective is, first of all, that you can't get enough nutrition from food that you eat, which is ridiculous. And the second thing is that the soil is so depleted and farming practices are so terrible that the food has no nutritional value. Now, I'm not a fan of modern farming practices, but the reality is my colleagues are publishing articles regularly in the medical journals showing that patients eating all this depleted, useless food are recovering from heart disease and multiple sclerosis and type 2 diabetes and et cetera. And so we can all agree that farming should change in this country, but it is absolutely a ridiculous false statement that people should take supplements because they can't get nutrition from food.
So then why are we still taking these supplements? Is there still a need for it?
Well, there is a need sometimes. I mean, and some of them can be very valuable in given situations. But one of our big problems in medicine, and this plagues all branches of medicine and health, is that if you only recommend things to people who actually benefit from them, you can't make a lot of money at it, all right? The money is in convincing the whole population that they need it. So let's take one very popular supplement, vitamin D, for example. Right now, most doctors, including traditional practitioners, are testing vitamin D levels and telling patients they're deficient, and this definition of deficiency is not well established. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force has recommended against all of this testing, and in fact, the body of evidence that is so huge in terms of why you should not supplement with vitamin D and how it will not improve health, that one research group said it is statistically impossible for more research to change the conclusion. All right, so the reason I'm saying this is that the $1 billion worth of vitamin D supplements being sold every year in the United States, and that doesn't count the money spent on doctor visits and lab tests and all that sort of thing. So does anybody benefit from vitamin D? Yeah, if you are an elderly patient in a nursing home and you haven't been outside since 1982, you might benefit. And if you are in kidney failure, you might benefit. But you can't make $1 billion. You can't generate billions of dollars in sales and doctor's visits just treating people with vitamin D who really need it. So we have to convince the whole population that they do. The supplement industry and the medical profession and the labs that benefit, lots of people benefit from this economically, have convinced the public that everybody should take these pills. And so in spite of the fact that it's not advisable, it doesn't solve problems, we should stop doing it. We're going to sell another $1 billion worth of the stuff this year, I'm pretty sure of it.
So with the fact that these are so widely taken, is there concern about overdosing, about taking too much of these supplements? What could backfire?
Here are a couple of things to think about. The first place in which we're misguided on this issue is we come to believe that if a small amount of a nutrient is good for you, then thousands of times or hundreds or thousands of times more is better, and that's not necessarily true. The second thing is this whole idea of supplementation is based on this reductionist idea that individual nutrients and sometimes individual foods are responsible for health, and that's not true. There are tens of thousands of nutrients in food. and they operate synergistically with one another. And it is the whole that's greater than the parts. And you just cannot duplicate the effect of eating an orange with vitamin C pills or eating an apple with flavonoid pills. You actually need to eat the food. There's a certain population of people who say, well, I've taken my insurance policy today, otherwise known as a multivitamin. I don't have to be concerned about this anymore. They should be very concerned. One other thing I'll mention is that the proliferation of fortified foods has made this even worse. So some people take a multivitamin and then they eat a lot of fortified foods every day, and then they take individual nutrients and pills in addition to all of that. And all this adds up to sometimes very scary doses of these individual nutrients on a daily basis.
What's the recourse then? If a lot of people are making claims about health, but as you mentioned, it can have a domino effect in other areas, where's the recourse?
Well, I think the only recourse to solve any of our problems in healthcare right now is to educate the consumer. When there's a financial interest involved, the industry is not going to reform itself. The healthcare industry is not going to reform itself. The government is not going to reform any of this. And the FDA would like to regulate supplements more, but their own misbehavior is why Congress took it away from them. So the secret to fixing all of this is consumer education. So that's why I'm always happy to do interviews like this, because I think an informed consumer, and that's what my company specializes in, is informed medical decision making. An informed consumer can learn to just say no to all of these things, and that's actually how things will improve.